I'm the president of the Chatham Township Historical Society, and we're all so happy you could be here today. First of all, I'd like to thank the consulate, the Turkish consulate in New York, for their gracious donation to what will be unveiled soon. So, who is here today? We have friends and family. We have a renowned author. We have Chatham Township Mayor, the Morris County Freeholder. We have people from the Turkish Consul, and we have lots of Chatham Township Historical Society people. So why are we all here today? All these different people. It goes back 100 years when Mahmud Sidky Bey moved his family, his wife Madame Hranoush Bey, and their son Rustam Bey, who became Chatham Township's first chief of police. So the history goes way back here. So what you're going to do now is meet all these different people. So we're going to start with Mayor Mike Kelly is going to get up and say a few words. Right, Mayor Mike?
Thank you. What a great day, and thanks everybody for coming. This is couldn't have arranged for a better day, so Historical Society does it again. So, I think I'd be presumptuous in this audience to try to say anything new and different than unknown about Madame Bey. I mean, with everyone that just was introduced. But I can add that I grew up in town. I can remember as a young child being driven around town and seeing the boxers doing their road work around town. In those days, you didn't have adults jogging along the street. That was unheard of. And you certainly didn't have adults riding bicycles either. And I can remember, looking out the window of the cars I drove by, and there'd be the boxer doing his road work, and then behind him would be his trainer on a bicycle. So now jogging and bike riding is common, but that was kind of it sticks in my mind growing up. And I think that what strikes me about today's ceremony is that we really are taking that piece of Chatham Township's past, and we're celebrating it in the present. And I think we're preserving it and moving it forward into the future. I mean, I can really envision the children in the township schools going on field trips, visiting, and standing in front, really, and having someone explain to them what that piece of township history really was, and what their township is really all about. So, again, thank you all for coming. Thank you to everyone who contributed to make this event possible, and pleased to be here.
Thank you, Mike. And now we're going to ask Teyfun Sellen to come up and speak. He's one of a Morris County Freeholder now. He is the past mayor of Chatham Township.
Thank you. My ears are getting bigger and bigger during this pandemic. And soon it's going to be like I'm going to fly. And so anyway, thank you, Wells, Pat, and Martha, and you guys are dynamite. And you guys, this Chatham Historical Society has been doing a great job, and I'm a big supporter and fan of yours on the County Freeholder Board. Oh, good. And we have the grants. Keep writing the grants. We're going to keep approving them. Okay. So I know we just approved something that has to do with the construction drawings for the schoolhouse, right? So I was one of the guys. Anyway, so thank you, Council General, for coming all the way up here. And this is a great day. This is a great day for Chatham, and I was not aware of the history, the richness of Chatham's history before I became the mayor. During the reorg meeting, when I became the mayor, I felt good because I was the first Turkish mayor in America, not only in Chatham or Morris County or New Jersey, in America, right? But the deputy mayor, now mayor, and Mike told me during the meeting, look, don't be so excited, because we had Rustam Bey, who's the son of Madame Bey, who has been the first police chief in Chatham Township. So you're not the only one. We had one before. We had one 80 years ago. So I said, fine, okay, you know what? I'm still the first Turkish mayor in America. And so thanks to the Wells family, thanks to the Consul General and their donation. This is great. And one thing I want to mention, and you know, Madame Bey's boxing camp was not easy to attend. And she had rules that you had to wake up every morning at 6 o'clock. You had to be done with the breakfast 7 o'clock. You had to have the supper by 5 o'clock, 5 p.m. And you had to be home in the bed by 10 p.m. No woman, no alcohol, nothing. So it's pretty boring. But you know, she did a good job. So anyway, so I want to stop here. Thank you again. And I am just going to give you the microphone. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, next we're going to hear from Tom Smart, and his sister Linda could come up now too and give him some moral support. They are the great-grandchildren of the Beys.
If I take this off, Governor Murphy's not going to jump out.
We'll take care of it.
He's not going to jump out.
No, you can do it when you're talking.
I want to thank Bert. We put Bert in charge of weather today, and Bert
Came through again.
just a couple more degrees up than next time. So Linda and I are representing the descendants of Sidky and Hranoush, and they're 27. 3 greats down now. The youngest is 2-ish. I think the oldest is about 8 or 9. So we're carrying on. None of them are named Bey, by the way, because Rustam had 2 girls. My mother Muriel and Linda's mother Betty Ann. But let me add my thanks to Martha and Pat and the rest of the Historical Society of Chatham for even proposing this. Tom, where's Tom? Tom Salvis and Bert these are the folks that I've been talking with, or that have been talking to me anyway. And I really do have to admit that a year ago, when my soon-to-be 95-year-old dad called me and said, my high school friend Berta Beige is going to call you, I had no idea what I was getting into. But I gotta say, it's been fun, Bert, for a year. So, just a short little aside. We know them as the Beys. We know that that's a title, Mr. in Turkish. However, they adopted this name. When they came here, they came on the steamship Fulda in 1897. Well, coincidentally, I and my family lived in a town in Germany for 3.5 years called Fulda. So I thought, what's going on? I want to thank the Turkish Consul General for coming and for the tremendous donation to make this happen. The Vice Consul is here as well, I think. I didn't get a chance to thank you. So, Reyhan, thank you, sir. And Orhan, thank you. And I want to thank Ishel. Ishel has connected all of these dots, beginning with Jean. She connected Jean and I, and ultimately the consul, and Shahadi, who has been my point of contact back and forth. And I'm sorry that she couldn't make it, but she's about ready to take some time off for having some twins. So please tell her for me thank you, and we'll someday hopefully come visit and say hello in New York. And honestly, I don't think any of this would have happened without Jean's book. Everything that I know pretty much about my great-grandparents I learned from Jean's book. When you're 10 years old and your mom and her sister are talking about their grandparents, you don't pay a whole lot of attention. And I was no different than a normal 10-year-old kid. I didn't pay a whole lot of attention. I do recall the conversations. I don't recall much more than that. Henry, I want to thank Henry Hascup for coming. Henry was instrumental in getting Madame Bey accepted into the New Jersey Boxing Hall of Fame, accepting what I'm sure was a very subtle suggestion from Bert. Gabe is not here. I didn't see Gabe. Gabe made the stone dust, and he's the stone cutter. And I haven't seen it yet. I'm told that he did a great job, and I just wanted to thank Gabe if he decides to sneak in the back here somewhere. And the last person I need to really offer a heartfelt thanks to is my phone buddy Bert. If anybody needs a bulldog of a project manager for anything downstream, when the chairs are done, Bert's picked up, Bert's looking for a new job. So, I'm going to miss our calls, Bert.
He can still call you.
I'm sure that we'll stay in touch. But Bert, thanks very much for everything. And do you want me to?
So now we would like the Consul General to get up and say a few words about Sidky,
Thank you.
right? Thank you.
Let's say what a wonderful day for us. And Chatham Historical Society, Mayor, Freeholder, Teyfun Bey, is called Bey, and Tom and Linda. We are very honored to be here today actually, and as you all know, Turkey has a very long and historical diplomacy tradition, and this tradition indeed has been built by such diplomats like Sidky Bey in the past. They came to the United States, they established themselves in our embassy in DC, and they don't only, or they didn't only perform the diplomatic duties, but they've seen that also they were able to establish very good social and cultural relations in the city. They established very fruitful relations with the land and US administration people, which contributed to the excellent relations between the Ottoman Empire and the United States at that time. And then he became my maybe first predecessor here in New York as a Consul General. He served 5 years here. And the first consulate, the office was in the historical Wall Street, in the Pearl Wall Street area, at the Pearl Street, just on the building. And then we see that both Sidky Bey and Hranoush Hanım, as Hranoush is a woman, we call Hanım, Hranoush Hanım, they adopted themselves to the life in the United States. And indeed, Sidky Bey, at that point, he also continued to contribute to the Ottoman Empire by his commerce and trade relations. He opened up a rug store and carpet store, which he brought from Turkey. So this was a direct contribution to the economy as well. So we are very happy today to be a part of this project, because this project is a good example of taking this legacy to the future generations, and this project itself will be a good example for us as well for future. So now we are thinking that we should also pick some our diplomatic history back in Europe and other countries. I believe that there are also this kind of excellent stories that we need to discover. And again, I would like to thank the Chatham Township Historical Society, Tom and Linda for their excellent cooperation with us during this project. And also, of course, to Shul Hanım, Shul Acehan, who actually made us aware of this situation or this historical case or moment. And also, again, I would like to thank the mayor and Freeholder for coming here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, next we are going to hear from G. Pantalone, who wrote the book. He wrote Madame Bey's Home to Boxing Legends. He's going to tell us some things about Madame Bey.
Thanks everybody for coming. To be honest, when I first started doing my research 6 years ago, I never really heard of Madame Sidky Bey or Mehmed Sidky Bey. It was only my interest to find more out about Ason's training camp, because me and my three brothers used to go there in the mid-1960s to watch the boxers train. By the way, Ason Karadag, who was running the camp at the time, like the Beys, was a Turkish. Thanks, Amy. Was a Turkish immigrant, but he was a Persian, whereas Madame Bey was a Armenian Christian and Sidky Bey was a Muslim. But for some time, they all lived under the same roof. Maybe we could learn something from them today. So it was not until I really delved into the history of the camp that I discovered the improbable exploits of Madame Bey. She was a woman who was far ahead of her time. She graduated from a college in Istanbul, which at the time was the only college for women in the Middle East. She could speak 6 languages, she could sing opera, and was later offered a position at the New York Met. She came to America in 1897, where she married Sidky Bey, who was offered the job of the second secretary at the Turkish legation, which was then the Ottoman Empire. In an interfaith, the marriage was an interfaith marriage, of course, between Madame Bey, who was Christian, and Sidky, who was Muslim. And this all occurred before she was 17 years old. So the Beys made a splash of Washington, D.C. in both the diplomatic and socialite scenes, where Sidky Bey served the Turkish government for 12 years. The Beys served under 3 U.S. presidents: William McKinley, Teddy Roosevelt, and William Howard Taft. But it was with the McKinleys they were closest. So much so that President McKinley invited Madame Bey to the 1901 World's Fair in Buffalo, New York, to sing the U.S. national anthem. A famous photo shows Madame Bey standing a few feet away from the president when he was assassinated. It was a photo that Madame Bey prominently displayed in her home. And with all these endeavors, it was her boxing camp that garnered her the most fame. She opened the camp in November of 1923. She ran it until 1942, at which time her friend and business partner, Ason Karadag, continued its operations until 1968, when the camp closed. Throughout its existence, the camp saw no fewer than 14 heavyweight champions and 80 International Boxing Hall of Famers. It was the most famous boxing camp at the time. Just imagine a woman in the 1920s, which is just 3 years after the 19th Amendment gave women the right to vote in the U.S. She was running a successful business in a man's world, in a sport thought of as only men could be involved in. It was a feat that would be hard to duplicate even in today's world. There's many quotes that I saw from Madame Bey, but this one I thought resonated the most with me. When a journalist asked her how a former aristocrat, socialite, and friend of presidents could operate a training camp for such a brutal sport, she drew upon her past experiences for a reply. Personally, Madame Bey told the journalist, I like men who fight in the open. I told a magazine writer the other day that the velvet glove of politics is infinitely more dangerous than the 4-ounce glove of pugilism, and that is the best way I can express it. So I'm honored to be here and able to resurrect Madame Bey's amazing accomplishments. I too would like to thank the Chatham Township Historical Society, the Turkish Embassy, Madame Bey's great-grandchildren, and the New Jersey Boxing Hall of Fame, where Madame Bey will be inducted into later this year, and many others of whom were instrumental in giving us the ability to place this monument here in recognition of Mehmed Sidky Bey and Madame Hranoush Bey. Thank you very much.
So next up is Henry Hascup, President of the New Jersey Boxing Hall of Fame.
Yeah, it's a different world, right? You know, when Bert told me that, I was going to be doing this, I didn't know Gene was coming down because Gene just read my speech.
Sorry about that.
Like he said, Madame Bey is a name in boxing second to none. When you call Madame Bey's boxing camp, a lot of people know about the camp, but don't know about the woman. The woman that was born in 1881. Like it would say, she was an opera singer. She spoke 6 or 7 different languages. She came over here when she was only 16 years of age. She married at that age. Her husband became a diplomat for Turkey. And of course, you know what happened with McKinley. He was assassinated. But years later, they were transferred to New York. And they were doing well over there too. But a little thing like World War I started. And then they were going to be transferred to Berlin. And they didn't want to go because they wanted to stay in the United States of America. So they quit the embassy, or whatever they want to call it. And they came into a rug business, the Oriental rug business. And they made a lot of money. So much so, they bought a piece of land, 30 acres, in a place called Chatham Township. It was a farm. They weren't farmers, but they bought it anyway. A couple of years later, they invested about $250,000 in rugs from overseas to bring over here so they could sell. But the Russians hijacked that ship, took all the rugs, and with it, the fortune that the Beys had. So they moved over here in Chatham Township, that little farmhouse. And about a mile away from them was a former lightweight champion of the world by the name of Freddie Welch. He ran a camp himself. It was a health camp for white-collar workers. And also, some of the best boxers in the world used to train there, including Jack Dempsey. Then one day in 1923, Freddie Welch went into the Army as a captain. And he had to have somebody run the camp. So he asked the Beys if they would. Of course, Sidky Bey, he didn't want to do it, but Madame Bey says, sure, why not? And Welch says, well, the camp isn't doing too good, so don't expect much. And for the first month or so, Freddie was right, because nobody showed up. Until one day in July, up the hill came the middleweight champion in the world by the name of Johnny Wilson. That was the first boxer Madame Bey ever had. Other ones followed. The flyweight champion in the world, Pancho Villa. The bantamweight champion in the world, Joe Lynch. The soon-to-be light heavyweight champion in the world, Paul Berlenbach, also came. There was 11 altogether. And she started to blossom. But then Freddie Welch found out that they had a boxer there, a former light heavyweight champion in the world by the name of Battling Sidky. He didn't like Sidky because he thought he was a playboy. He thought he'd give him a bad name. She told Madame, he said, you got to get rid of him. So Madame went back to all her fighters and he said, what do you think about this Battling Sidky? And there was no one that said anything bad about him. So she went back to Freddie Welch and told him. And Freddie Welch says, well, if he don't go, you have to go. She says, well, so be it. So she walked a mile down the road. And mind you, Freddie Welch's camp was like 160 acres, state of the art. She walked a mile to her old farmhouse. And guess what? Each and every boxer followed her. But when they got there, they realized they didn't even have a ring. They didn't have no boxing equipment. But Johnny Wilson's trainer, a guy by the name of Buckley, happened to be a carpenter. And he said, we can build it. And between all the fighters and Madame Bey, they got enough money, they got the material, the lumber, the nails, the tools, and they built themselves a training camp. And it was called Madame Bey's. And that was in 1923, like Gene said. And she was a good-hearted person too, because several years later, this German champion came to the door. He had a broken hand. He wanted to train at Madame Bey's, but he didn't have enough money. And he says, I'm pretty good, but I just can't afford the $4.50 a day. And she says, don't worry about it, I'll pay. Not only did she pay that, but she sent him to New York for a specialist to mend his hand. And a few months later, this man was back into the ring. Make a long story short, a few years later, this German became the heavyweight champion of the world. His name was Max Schmeling. In 1936, Max Schmeling was the first man in boxing history not only to beat Joe Louis, but to knock him out. Of course, 2 years later, Joe Louis knocked him out. So that was Max Schmeling. Of course, she had a lot of hardships. In 1934, her gymnasium burnt down. Big fire. All the equipment. And she wasn't worried about the equipment. That was going to be replaced. But there was photos, autographs from all her fighters that were also destroyed, never again to be found. She was heartbroken. But they rebuilt that camp, and some of the greatest fighters in the world showed up. Henry Armstrong, a 3-time world champion. He held 3 titles at the same time. Tony Canzoneri, Lou Ambers, Gene Tunney, you name it, they were there. Of course, you know, Gene told you already how many Hall of Famers, how many, you know, champions. But in 1937, another tragedy happened when her husband, Sidky, passed away. Again, she was heartbroken. She lost the lover of her life. But she kept on. And I guess all the champions start going there again. And then, on January 30th, 1942, Madame Bey's heart stopped, and she passed away. That camp stayed another 25 or so years. Like Gene said, there was 14 heavyweight champions that trained there. The last being Floyd Patterson. There was 80 International Boxing Hall of Famers. The last was Carlos Ortiz in 1967. And finally in 1969, the camp finally closed. You know, earlier this year, for the first time, when I got the call from Bert about Madame Bey, I put her name on the ballot for the New Jersey Boxing Hall of Fame. And when we had that committee meeting to vote, most people knew about the camp, but very few knew about the woman. But now they did. And I have to tell you, there was 13 people on that committee, and each and every one of them voted for Madame Bey. She will be inducted into the New Jersey Boxing Hall of Fame as soon as this virus is over. And right now, I guess we're going to have the unveiling of the stone. But before I do, you know, in the boxing circles throughout the world, when a person passes away, a timekeeper will ring a bell similar to this, and they would ring it 10 times. Well, we don't ring it 10 times. We don't ring it 9. And the reason why we ring it 9 is because we feel that Madame Bey will live on. Look at this. 78 years later, she's still living. She's living in her ancestors, living in the hearts of all the people here, Bert. So she will live on as long as we want her to. That tombstone is going to be there long after each and every one of us are gone. So without further ado, I would like to bring up the descendants.
Give us some instructions.
Somebody. I guess you got to go over there.
Yeah.
All right.
We're to come and unveil. Don't hold.
Before they unveil, I want to ask you all to rise, as I'm going to ring this bell 9 times, but not in the memory of Madame and Sidky Bey, but in the celebration of the life they gave us all.
Come on, Bert. Come on, Bert. Give us some instructions. What do you want us to do? Okay.
It's the unveiling of the Bey tombstone.